We are also live on YouTube right now, Facebook, and Twitter. So if there's anybody you want to ping into the room, this is the beginning. And always, the replay will be on YouTube. To find my YouTube, the link is in my bio on Fanbase. Um, so that's easy to find. Or you just search me, Positively Angela, on YouTube. But the replay will be there, and I will have each chapter. So if we do chapter 1 to 3 tonight, that's how it will be labeled, so we can catch the replay. The purpose of why we read is so that when we go to bed in the state of our wish fulfilled, meaning we go to bed with the knowledge of I am and I can, so that it doesn't matter what obstacle you can think of, you've already beaten it. These are just simple reminders, because the way you go to sleep is the cause of how you will live out tomorrow. That's why we go to sleep in this fashion. Artorias the Great and Cyber Sugar Visions, they are also here. Now, I won't see you guys on Fanbase because I have to flip over in my iPad, but I know that you are here. Okay? That deal, and Marquise and Tiffany. Let's flip over and we shall begin seed time and harvest. To all of you who apply what you read in this book, and by doing, create a finer world, I give you the end of a golden string. Only wind it into a ball. It will lead you in at heaven's gate, built in Jerusalem's wall. William Blake. In the following essays, I have tried to indicate certain ways of approach of the understanding of the Bible and the realization of your dreams. That ye be not slothful, but followers of them who through faith and patience inherit the promises. Hebrews 6:12, stepping with faith. Many who enjoy the old familiar verses of Scripture are discouraged when they themselves try to read the Bible as they would any other book, because quite excusably they do not understand that the Bible is written in the language of symbolism. Not knowing that all of its characters are personifications of the laws and functions of mind, that the Bible is psychological rather than history. They puzzle their brains over it for a while and then give up. It is all too mystifying. To understand the significance of its imagery, the reader of the Bible must be imaginatively awake. According to the scriptures, we sleep with Adam and wake with Christ. That is, we sleep collectively and wake individually. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. Genesis 2:21. If Adam, or generic man, is in a deep sleep, then his experiences as recorded in the scriptures must be a dream. Only he who is awake can tell his dream, and only he would understand the symbolism of dreams, can interpret the dream. And they said one to another, did not our heart burn within us while he talked with us by the way, and while he opened to us the scriptures? Luke 24:32. The Bible is a revelation of the laws and functions of mind expressed in the language of that twilight realm into which we go when we sleep. Because the symbolical language of this twilight realm is much the same for all men, the recent explorers of this realm, human imagination, call it the collective unconscious. The purpose of this book, however, is not to give you a complete definition of biblical symbols or exhaustive interpretations of its stories. All I hope to have done is to have indicated the way in which you are most likely to succeed in realizing your desires. What things soever ye desire can be obtained only through the conscious, voluntary exercise of imagination in direct obedience to the laws of mind. Somewhere within this realm of imagination, there is a mood, a feeling of the wish fulfilled, which, if appropriated, means success to you. This realm, this Eden, your imagination, is vaster than you know and repays exploration. I give you the end of a golden string. You must wind it into a ball. Chapter 1. The Four Mighty Ones. And a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted, and became into four heads. Genesis 2:10. And every one had four faces. Ezekiel 10:14. I see four men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt, and the form of the fourth is like the Son of God. Daniel 3:25. Four mighty ones are in every man. William Blake. The four mighty ones constitute the selfhood of man, or God in man. There are four mighty ones in every man. But these four mighty ones are not four separate beings, separated one from the other, as are the fingers of his hand. The four mighty ones are four different aspects of his mind, and differ from one another in function and character without being four separate selves inhabiting one man's body. The four mighty ones may be equated with the four Hebrew characters. Characters here which form the four-lettered mystery name of the creative power from and combining within itself the past, present, and future forms of the verb to be. The tetragrammaton is revered as the symbol of the creative power in man. I am. The creative four functions in man reaching forth to realize in actual material phenomena qualities latent in itself. We can best understand the four mighty ones by comparing them to the four most important characters in the production of a play. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. As You Like It, Act 2, Scene 7. The producer, the author, the director, and the actor are the four most important characters in the production of a play. The producer, the author, the director, and the actor are the four most important characters in the production of a play. In the drama of life, the producer's function is to suggest the theme of a play. This he does in the form of a wish, such as, I wish I were successful. I wish I could take a trip. I wish I were married, and so on. But to appear on the world's stage, these general themes must somehow be specified and worked out in detail. It is not enough to say, I wish I were successful. Well, that is too vague. Successful at what? However, the first mighty one only suggests a theme. The dramatization of the theme is left to the originality of the second mighty one, the author. In dramatizing the theme, the author writes only the last scene of the play. But this scene he writes in detail. The scene must dramatize the wish fulfilled. He mentally constructs as lifelike a scene as possible of what he would experience had he realized his wish. When the scene is clearly visualized, the author's work is done. The third mighty one in the production of life's play is the director. The director's tasks are to see that the actor remains faithful to the script, and to rehearse him over and over again until he is natural in the part. This function may be likened to a controlled and consciously directed attention, an attention focused exclusively on the action, which implies that the wish is already realized. The form of the fourth is like the Son of God, human imagination, the actor. This fourth mighty one performs within himself, in imagination, the predetermined action which implies the fulfillment of the wish. This function does not visualize or observe the action. This function actually enacts the drama and does it over and over again until it takes on the tones of reality. Without the dramatized vision or fulfilled desire, the theme remains a mere theme and sleeps forever in the vast chambers of unborn themes. Nor without the cooperate attention, obedient to the dramatized vision of fulfilled desire, will the vision perceived attain objective reality. The four mighty ones are the four quarters of the human soul. The first is Jehovah's King, who suggests the theme. The second is Jehovah's servant, who faithfully works out the theme in a dramatic vision. The third is Jehovah's man, who was attentive and obedient to the vision of fulfilled desire, who brings the wandering imagination back to the script 70 times 7. The form of the fourth is Jehovah himself, who enacts the dramatized theme on the stage of the mind. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus, who, being in the form of God, thought it not robbery to be equal with God. Philippians 2, 5 and 6. The drama of life is a joint effort of the four quarters of the human soul. All that you behold, though it appears without, it is within, in your imagination, of which this world of morality or mortality is but a shadow. William Blake. All that we behold is a visual construction, shea butter, contrived to express a theme which has been dramatized, rehearsed, and performed elsewhere. What we are witnessing on the stage of the world is an optical construction devised to express the themes which have been dramatized or rehearsed and performed in the imagination of men. The four mighty ones constitute the selfhood of man, or God in man, and all that man beholds, though it appears without, are but shadows cast upon the screen of space, optical constructions contrived by selfhood to inform him in regard to the themes which he has conceived, dramatized, rehearsed, and performed within himself. The creature was made subject unto vanity, that he may become conscious of selfhood and its functions. For with consciousness of selfhood and its functions, he can act to a purpose. He can have a consciously self-determined history. Without consciousness, he acts unconsciously and cries to an objective God to save him from his own creation. O Lord, how long shall I cry, and thou wilt not hear? Even cry out unto thee of violence, and thou wilt not save. Habakkuk 1, verse 2. When man discovers that life is a play which he himself is consciously or unconsciously writing, he will cease from the blind self-torture of executing judgment upon others. Instead, he will rewrite the play to conform to his ideal, for he will realize that all changes in the play must come from the cooperation of the four mighty ones within himself. They alone can alter the script and produce the change. All the men and women in his world are merely players and are as helpless to change his play as are the players on the screen of the theater to change the picture. The desired change must be conceived, dramatized, rehearsed, and performed in the theater of his mind. When the fourth function, the imagination, has completed its task of rehearsing the revised version of the play until it is natural, then the curtain will rise upon this so seemingly solid world, and the mighty four will cast a shadow of the real play upon the screen of space. Men and women will automatically play their parts to bring about the fulfillment of the dramatized theme. The players, by reason of their various parts in the world's drama, become relevant to the individual's dramatized theme, and because relevant, are drawn into his drama. They will play their parts, faithfully believing all the while that it was they themselves who initiated the parts they play. This they do because thou, Father, art in me, and I in thee, I in them, and thou in me. John 17:21-23. I am involved in mankind. We are one. We are all playing the four parts of producer, author, director, and actor in the drama of life. Well, some of us are doing it consciously, others unconsciously. It is necessary that we do it consciously. Only in this way can we be certain of a perfect ending to our play. Then we shall understand why we must become conscious of the four functions of the one God within ourselves, that we may have the companionship of God as his sons. Man should not stay a man. His aim should higher be. For God will only, for God wills only gods accept his company. Angelus Cecilius. In January of 1946, I took my wife and little daughter to Barbados in the British West Indies for a holiday, not knowing there were any difficulties in getting a return passage. I had not booked ours before leaving New York. Upon our arrival in Barbados, I discovered that there were only two ships serving the island, one from Boston and one from New York. I was told there was no available space on either ship before September. As I had commitments in New York for the first week in May, I put my name on the long waiting list for the April sailing. A few days later, the ship from New York was anchored in the harbor. I observed it very carefully and decided that this was the ship we should take. I returned to my hotel and determined on an interaction that would be mine were we actually sailing on that ship. I settled down in an easy chair in my bedroom to lose myself in this imaginative action. In Barbados, we take a motor launch or a rowboat out into the deep harbor. Then we embark on a large steamer. I knew I must catch the feeling that we were sailing on that ship. I chose the interaction of stepping from the tender and climbing up the gangplank of the steamer. The first time I tried, my attention wandered after I had reached the top of the gangplank. I brought myself back down and tried again and again. I do not recall how many times I carried out this action in my imagination until I reached the deck and looked back at the port with a feeling of sweet sadness at departing. I was happy to be returning to my home in New York, but nostalgic in saying goodbye to the lovely island and our family and friends. I do recall that in one of my many attempts at walking up the gangplank, in the feeling that I was sailing, I fell asleep. After I awoke, I went about the usual social activities of the day and evening. The following morning, I received the call from the steamship company requesting me to come down to their office and pick up our tickets for the April sailing. Well, I was curious to know why Barbados had been chosen to receive the cancellation and why I, at the end of the long waiting list, was to have the reservation. But all that the agent could tell me was that a cable had been received that morning from New York offering passage for three. I was not the first the agent had called, but for reasons she could not explain, those she had called said that now they found it inconvenient to sail in April. We sailed on April 20th and arrived in New York on the morning of May the 1st. In the production of my play, The Sailing on a Boat That Would Bring Me to New York by the 1st of May, I played the four most important characters in my drama. As the producer, I decided to sail on a specific ship at a certain time. As the producer, I decided to sail on a specific ship at a certain time. Playing the part of the author, I wrote the script. I visualized the inner action, which conformed to the outer action I would take if my desire were realized. As the director, I rehearsed myself, the actor, in that imagined action of climbing the gangplank until that action felt completely natural. This being done, events and people moved swiftly to conform in the outer world to the play I had constructed and enacted in my imagination. I saw the mystic vision flow and live in men and woods and streams until I could no longer know the stream of life from my own dreams. Ooh, George William Russell. I told this story to an audience of mine in San Francisco, and a lady in the audience told me how she had unconsciously used the same technique when she was a young girl. The incident occurred on Christmas Eve. She was feeling very sad and tired and sorry for herself. Her father, whom she adored, had suddenly died. Not only did she feel this loss at the Christmas season, but necessity had forced her to give up her planned college years and go to work. This rainy Christmas Eve, she was riding home on a San Diego streetcar. The car was filled with gay chatter of happy young people home for the holidays. To hide her tears from those around her, she stood on the open part at the front of the car and turned her face into the skies to mingle her tears with the rain. With her eyes closed and holding the rail of the car firmly, this is what she said to herself. This is not the salt of the tears that I taste, but the salt of the sea and the wind. This is not San Diego. This is the South Pacific, and I am sailing into the Bay of Samoa. And looking up in her imagination, she constructed what she imagined to be the Southern Cross. She lost herself in this contemplation so that all faded around about her. Suddenly, she was at the end of the line and home. 2 weeks later, she received word from a lawyer in Chicago that he was holding $3,000 in American bonds for her. Several years before, an aunt of hers had gone to Europe with instructions that these bonds be turned over to her niece if she did not return to the United States. The lawyer had just received word of the aunt's death and was now carrying out her instructions. A month later, this girl sailed for the islands in the South Pacific. It was night when she entered the Bay of Samoa. Looking down, she could see the white foam like a bone in the lady's mouth as the ship plowed through the waves and brought the salt of the sea and the wind. An officer on duty said to her, There's the Southern Cross. And looking up, she saw the Southern Cross as she had imagined it. In the intervening years, she had many opportunities to use her imagination constructively. But as she had done this unconsciously, she did not realize there was a law behind it all. Now that she understands, she too is consciously playing her four major roles in the daily drama of her life, producing plays for the good of others as well as herself. Then the soldiers, when they had crucified Jesus, took his garments and made four parts, to every soldier a part, and also his coat. Now the coat was without seam, woven from the top throughout. John 19:23. Chapter 2. The gift of faith. And the Lord had respect upon Abel, and in his offerings. But unto Cain and to his offering he had no respect. Genesis 4:4 and 5. If we search the scripture, we will become aware of a far deeper meaning in the above quotation than that which a literal reading would give us. The Lord is none other than your own consciousness. Say unto the children of Israel, I am hath sent me unto you. Exodus 3:14. I am is the self-definition of the Lord. Cain and Abel, as the grandchildren of the Lord, can be only personifications of two distinct functions of your own consciousness. The author is really concerned to show the two contrary states of the human soul, and he has used two brothers to show these states. The two brothers represent two distinct outlooks on the world possessed by everyone. One is the limited perception of the senses, and the other is an imaginative view of the world. Cain, the first view, is a passive surrender to appearances and an acceptance of life on the basis of the world without, a view which inevitably leads to unsatisfied longing or a contentment with disillusion. Abel, the second view, is a vision of fulfilled desire, lifting man above the evidence of the senses to that state of relief where he no longer pines with desire. Ignorance of the second view is a soul on fire. Knowledge of the second view is the wing whereby it flies to the heaven of fulfilled desire. Come, eat my bread and drink of the wine that I have mingled. Forsake the foolish and live. Proverbs 9:56. In the epistle to the Hebrews, the writer tells us that Abel's offering was faith and states the author, without faith, it is impossible to please him. Hebrews 11:6. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not yet seen. Through faith, we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. Hebrews 11:1 and 3. Cain offers the evidence of the senses, which consciousness, the Lord, rejects. Because acceptance of this gift as a mold of the future would mean the fixation and perpetuation of the present state forever. The sick would be sick, the poor would be poor, the thief would be a thief, the murderer a murderer, and so on, without hope of redemption. The Lord, or consciousness, has no respect for such passive use of imagination, which is the gift of Cain. He delights in the gift of Abel, the active, voluntary, loving exercise of the imagination on behalf of man for himself and others. Let the weak man say, I am strong. Joel 3:10. Let man disregard appearances and declare himself to be the man he wants to be. Let him imagine beauty where his senses reveal ashes, joy where they testify to mourning, riches where they bear witness to poverty. Only by such active voluntary use of imagination can man be lifted up and Eden restored. The ideal is always waiting to be incarnated. But unless we ourselves offer the ideal to the Lord, our consciousness, by assuming that we are already that which we seek to embody, it is incapable of birth. The Lord needs his daily lamb of faith to mold the world in harmony with his dreams. By faith, Abel offered unto God a more excellent sacrifice than Cain. Hebrews 11:4. Faith sacrifices the apparent fact for the unapparent truth. Faith holds fast to the fundamental truth that through the medium of an assumption, invisible states become visible facts. For what is faith unless it is to believe what you do not see? St. Augustine. Just recently, I had the opportunity to observe the wonderful results of one who had the faith to believe what she did not see. A young woman asked me to meet her sister and her 3-year-old nephew. He was a fine, healthy lad with clear blue eyes and an exceptionally fine, unblemished skin. Then she told me her story. At birth, the boy was perfect in every way, save for a large, ugly birthmark covering one side of his face. Their doctor advised them that nothing could be done for this type of scar. Visits to many specialists only confirmed his statement. Hearing the verdict, the aunt set herself the task of proving the faith that an assumption, though denied by the evidence of the senses, if persisted in, will harden into fact. Every time she thought of the baby, which was often, she saw in her imagination an 8-month-old baby with a perfect face, without any trace of a scar. Well, this was not easy, but she knew that in this case, that was the gift of Abel which pleased God. She persisted in her faith. She believed what was not there to be seen. The result was that she visited her sister on the child's 8th-month birthday and found him to have a perfect, unblemished skin with no trace of a birthmark ever having been present. Luck! Coincidence, shouts Cain. No, Abel knows that these are names given by those who have no faith to the works of faith. We walk by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5:7. When reason and the facts of life oppose the idea you desire to realize, and you accept the evidence of your senses and the dictates of reason as the truth, you have brought the Lord, your consciousness, the gift of Cain. It is obvious that such offerings do not please him. Life on earth is a training ground for image making. If you use only the molds which your senses dictate, there will be no change in your life. You are here to live the more abundant life, so you must use the invisible molds of imagination and make results and accomplishments the crucial test of your power to create. Only as you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and continue therein are you offering the gift that pleases. When Abel's gift is my attire, then I'll realize my desire. The prophet Malachi complains that man has robbed God. But ye say, wherein have we robbed thee? In tithes and offerings. Malachi 3:8. Facts based upon reason and the evidence of the senses, which oppose the ideas seeking expression, rob you of the belief in the reality of the invisible state. But faith is the evidence of things not seen, and through it God calleth those things which be not as though they were. Romans 4:17. Call the thing not seen. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. That there may be meat in mine house, and prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall not be room enough to receive it. Malachi 3:10. This is the story of a couple living in Sacramento, California, who refused to accept the evidence of their senses, who refused to be robbed in spite of a seeming loss. The wife had given her husband a very valuable wristwatch. The gift doubled its value because of the sentiment he attached to it. They had a little ritual with the watch. Every night, as he removed the watch, he gave it to her and she put it away in a special box in the bureau. Every morning, she took the watch and gave it to him to put on. One morning, the watch was missing. They both remembered playing their usual parts the night before. Therefore, the watch was not lost or misplaced, but stolen. Well, then and there, they determined not to accept the fact that it was really gone. They said to each other, "This is an opportunity to practice what we believe." They decided that in their imagination, they would enact their customary ritual as though the watch were actually there. In his imagination, every night, the husband took off the watch and gave it to his wife, while in her imagination, she accepted the watch and carefully put it away. Every morning, she removed the watch from its box and gave it to her husband, and he in turn put it on. This they did faithfully for 2 weeks. After their 14-day vigil, a man went into the one and only jewelry store in Sacramento where the watch would be recognized. As he offered a gem for appraisal, the owner of the store noticed the wristwatch he was wearing. Under the pretext of needing a closer examination of the stone, he went into an inner office and called the police. After the police arrested the man, they found in his apartment over $10,000 worth of stolen jewelry. In walking by faith, not by sight, this couple attained their desire, the watch, and also aided many others in regaining what had seemed to be lost forever. If one advances confidently in the direction of his dream and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. Thoreau. We will end with chapter 3, the scale of being. And he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of God ascending and descending on it. And behold, the Lord stood above it. Genesis 28:12 and 13. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep fell upon Jacob, his inner eye was opened, and he beheld the world as a series of ascending and descending levels of awareness. It was a revelation of the deepest insight into the mysteries of the world. Jacob saw a vertical scale of ascending and descending values or states of consciousness. This gave meaning to everything in the outer world, for without such a scale of values, there would be no meaning to life. At every moment of time, man stands upon the eternal scale of meaning. There is no object or event that has ever taken place or is taking place now that is without significance. The significance of an object or event for the individual is a direct index to the level of his consciousness. You are holding this book, for example. On one level of consciousness, it is an object in space. On a higher level, it is a series of letters on paper arranged according to certain rules. On a still higher level, it is an expression of meaning. Looking outwardly, you see the book first, but actually the meaning comes first. It occupies a higher grade of significance than the letter arrangement on paper or the book as an object in space. Meaning determined the arrangement of letters. The arrangement of letters only expresses the meaning. The meaning is invisible and above the level of the visible arrangement of letters. If there had been if there had been no meaning to be expressed, no book would have been written and published. And behold, the Lord stood above it. The Lord and the meaning are one. The Creator, the cause of the phenomena of life. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. John 1:1. In the beginning was the intention, the meaning, and the intention was with the intender, and the intention was the intender. The objects and events in time and space occupy a lower level of significance than the level of meaning which produced them. All things were made by meaning, and without meaning was not anything made that was made. The fact that everything seen can be regarded as the effect on a lower level of significance, on an unseen higher order of significance, is a very important one to grasp. Our usual mode of procedure is to attempt to explain the higher levels of significance, why things happen, in terms of the lower, what and how things happen. For example, let us take an actual accident and try to explain it. Most of us live on the level of what happened. The accident was an event in space. One automobile struck another and practically demolished it. Some of us live on the higher level of how the accident happened. It was a rainy night. The roads were slippery and the second car skidded into the first. On rare occasions, a few of us reach the highest or causal level of why such an accident occurs. Then we become aware of the invisible, the state of consciousness which produced the visible event. In this case, the ruined car was driven by a widow who, though she felt she could not afford to, greatly desired to change her environment. Having heard that, by the proper use of her imagination, she could do and be all she wished to be, this widow had been imagining herself actually living in the city of her desire. At the same time, she was living in a consciousness of loss, both personal and financial. At the same time, she was living in a consciousness of loss, both personal and financial. She's a widow. Therefore, she brought upon herself an event which was seemingly another loss. But the sum of money the insurance company paid her allowed her to make the desired change in her life. When we see the why behind the seeming accident, the state of consciousness that produced the accident, we are led to the conclusion that there is no accident. Everything in life has its invisible meaning. The man who learns of an accident, the man who knows how it happened, and the man who knows why it happened are on three different levels of awareness in regard to that accident. On the ascending scale, each higher level carries us a step in advance towards the truth of the accident. We should strive constantly to lift ourselves to the higher level of meaning, the meaning that is always invisible and above the physical event. But remember, the meaning or cause of the phenomena of life can be found only within the consciousness of man. Man is so engrossed in the visible side of the drama of life, the side of what happened and how it happened, that he rarely rises to the invisible side of why it happened. He refuses to accept the prophet's warning that things which are seen were not made of things that do not appear. Hebrews 11:3. His descriptions of what has happened and how it happened are true in terms of his corresponding level of thought. But when he asks why it happened, all physical explanations break down and he is forced to seek the why or meaning of it on the invisible and higher level. The mechanical analysis of events deals only with external relationships of things. Such a course will never reach the level which holds the secret of why the events happen. Man must recognize that the lower and visible sides flow from the invisible and higher level of meaning. Intuition is needed to lift us up to the level of meaning, to the level of why things happen. Let us follow the advice of the Hebrew prophet of old and lift up our eyes unto the hills, within ourselves, and observe what is taking place there. See what ideas we have accepted as true, what states we have consented to, what dreams, what desires, and above all, what intentions. It is from these hills that all things come to reveal our stature, our height on the vertical scale of meaning. If we lift our eyes to Thee in me who works behind the veil, we will see the meaning of the phenomena of life. Events appear on the screen of space to express the different levels of consciousness of man. A change in the level of his consciousness automatically results in a change of the phenomena of his life. To attempt to change conditions before he changes the level of consciousness from whence they came is to struggle in vain. Man redeems the world as he ascends the vertical scale of meaning. We saw in the analogy of this book that as consciousness was lifted up to the level where man could see meaning expressed in the arrangement of its letters, it also included the knowledge that the letters were arranged according to certain rules, and that such arrangements, then printed on paper and bound together, formed a book. What is true of the book is true of every event in the world. They shall not hurt or destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. Isaiah 11:9. Nothing is to be discarded. All is to be redeemed. Our lives, ascending the vertical scale of meaning towards an ever increasing awareness. and awareness of things of higher significance are the process whereby this redemption is brought to pass. A man arranges letters into words and words into sentences to express meaning. In like manner, life arranges circumstances, conditions, and events to express the unseen meanings or attitudes of men. Nothing is without significance. But man, not knowing the higher level of inner meaning, looks out upon a moving panorama of events and sees no meaning to life. There is always a level of meaning determining events and their essential relationship to our lives. Here is a story that will enable us to seize the good in things seeming evil, to withhold judgment, and to act aright amid unsolved problems. Just a few years ago, our country was shocked by a seeming injustice in our midst. The story was told on radio and television, as well as in the newspapers. You may recall the incident. The body of a young American soldier killed in Korea was returned to his home for burial. Just before the service, his wife was asked a routine question. Was her husband a Caucasian? When she replied that he was an Indian, burial was refused. This refusal was in accordance with the laws of that community, but it aroused the entire nation. We felt incensed that anyone who had been killed in the service of his country should be denied burial anywhere in his country. The story reached the attention of the President of the United States, and he offered burial with full military honors in Arlington National Cemetery. After the service, the wife told reporters that her husband had always dreamed of dying a hero and having a hero's burial service with full military honors. Then we in America had to explain why progressive, intelligent people like ourselves not only enacted but supported such laws in our great land of the free and the brave. We were hard put for an explanation. We, as observers, had seen only what happened and how it happened. We failed to see the why it happened. That burial had to be refused if that lad was to realize his dream. We tried to explain the drama in terms of the lower level of how it happened, which explanation could not satisfy the one who had asked why it happened. The true answer, viewed from the level of higher meaning, would be such a reversal of our common habits of thinking that it would be instantly rejected. The truth is that future states are causative of present facts. The truth is that future states are causative. They cause present facts. The Indian boy dreaming of a hero's death with full military honors was like Lady Macbeth transported beyond this ignorant present and could feel now the future in the instant. And by it, he being dead yet speaketh. Hebrews 11:4. There concludes chapter 3. Oh my word. 3 more chapters remain. We will finish those tomorrow night. I thank you, which would be what? The game of life. How glorious a thing to be reminded that we are the ones who determine the outcome of our lives by simply the things we entertain in our minds. So every story you heard tonight, in the first 3 chapters of Seed, Time, and Harvest, be reminded, what story are you telling yourself? Remember, producer, author, director, actor, the four mighty ones. You are all four of them. You devise the theme. What is it that you would like? And then you devise a short scene that would confirm it was fulfilled. And as the director, you set the time to say, we're going to practice here this time. And you keep the actor faithful. So now the actor does what? The actor rehearses his role mentally, day in and day out, until such time you just stop rehearsing. Why? Because you're living it. This is the purpose. We don't lose hope. We're not hoping, right? So it's not there to lose. We have faith. Why? What do you have faith in? The imaginal act that creates your reality. And you know that it creates. So you have nothing to fret over. You just say, this is good. I know the outcome. So as you put your head on that pillow, if it is not already there, you know what you want to experience. Then begin to rehearse how you would behave, having accomplished it, because it is already yours. All you're doing is rehearsing so that when it shows up, you know how to act. Things take time in the third dimension. We are like molasses here. So they move slower than normal. You are not concerned with the speed at which it moves. You are concerned with, ooh, how natural is this thing to me that I am rehearsing? So that you do it without stammering. You say what you say. You move and you act and you behave the way you intend to. But the only way to get there is to rehearse it over and over and over again. I will see you all in the morning, my beautiful friends. 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for morning inspiration. I don't even remember what we're talking about tomorrow, but I'm sure I have it written somewhere. So YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, thank you all for being here. Shea Butter, Stepping with Faith, Artorius the Great, Cyber Sugar Visions. Thank you for being here. Much love to you.